The founders of the IEA had different views about the European Union, but they would all have been agreed that any international economic arrangements should promote economic freedom and free trade. Should Britain leave the European Union, it's absolutely essential that any organisations, any arrangements we enter upon leaving the European Union should promote those objectives. That's why the IEA launched the Brexit Prize.
If following a referendum in the United Kingdom, the British people had voted to leave the European Union, it would be a seismic shock across the entire European Union. It would bring to an end an assumption that you could continue to widen and deepen the European Union without the explicit consent of its member states. And given the size of the United Kingdom, it would be one of the large key members who'd be leaving, and that would have knock-on consequences everywhere.
There is an argument you hear quite often that if Britain left the EU, we would lose, some people say 3 million, some people say 4 million jobs. This is in fact a complete nonsense. If Britain left the EU, trade with the EU wouldn't stop. The overwhelming majority of it would continue. The key question to ask is not really about jobs in this regard. It's about overall prosperity. If leaving the EU were to raise the overall level of prosperity and economic activity in Britain, then it would lead to more jobs, not fewer.
In my opinion, Britain's destiny is global. We have not just European interests, but we have interests all over the world as a result of having been an imperial power once upon a time and having clearly these interests in Asia and Africa and elsewhere and in Australasia and so on, and still with the Commonwealth still very much in existence and all the networks that provides. So we have a global perspective. We don't just have a European perspective.
When you go into a general election, the three political parties outline their various manifestos. When you go into referendum, I think you also have to be given the options, the status quo and what that means, and saying we will leave and what that means. And the Brexit Prize is the first attempt to have a comprehensive view as to what leaving the European Union might entail.
I think it's been incredibly important to raise the level of debate about this issue. It's important for people to understand what the questions are about Britain's EU membership, important for them to realise that there are alternatives to belonging to the EU. I think it's important for people to think logically and clearly about it in order to be able to make a clear and rational choice.
The Brexit Prize and the prize winning entry address questions like what should be our trading arrangements outside the European Union, how the City of London, the banking and finance sector of the British economy, which is a very important sector, would fare best. And it is above all to show people what life might be like outside the European Union. They know what it's like inside the European Union. This is an attempt to show them what it's like outside, so people, when it comes to it, can make an informed choice.
The Brexit Prize addresses the very fundamental question of what would it actually mean for the United Kingdom once you had said we want to leave the European Union. At the moment, no one is doing that work. We know that people are going to be asked if there's a particular outcome in the 2015 general election, but the options haven't been outlined, and I think Brexit Prize is a first comprehensive attempt of looking at the various questions which the British people will have to ask themselves and the politicians.